It's collab time once again, and we have another great subject covered in depth by Ryan Tremblay. Ryan wrote the Wendigo story I looked at a few videos ago, and is back with a cryptid related to the Bigfoot. This Sasquatch cousin is a little different to its kin, a lot more violent and feared by those that know of its existence. This creature is known as Genoskwa. Let's take a look. Welcome to IF, videos on history and mystery. Hit that subscribe button and ring that bell so you never miss a video again. When one thinks of Sasquatch, we often think of a shy, elusive beast. But what of the subspecies? Ranging from the Gugwe, the alleged face eaters, the skunk ape, a bipedal ape-like creature said to lurk in the wetlands of the Florida region. Today we focus on a variety of Sasquatch spoken of in legend and lore. The Genoskwa. Within the far-flung regions of North America lives a creature of nightmare, a beast of savagery, sometimes referred to as the Wendigo. The Genoskwa is a subspecies of Sasquatch mentioned in Native American folklore as the stone giant man. In Iroquois legend, this hairy hominid was known as Otniyarahit or Otniyarhe, sorry for my pronunciation, which also translates to stone giant or stone goat. It is reported as Sasquatch's larger, bulkier and more aggressive cousin. It has rock-hard skin, and they twist the heads of their victims until they are decapitated. It is also known to throw rocks at people. They are said to be much more aggressive than most other Sasquatch and appear to be very violent and territorial. Though the Genoskwa has a remarkable different temperament as opposed to its cousins the Sasquatch, the two do share very similar physical traits. Eyewitnesses have described the Genoskwa as a hairy giant, its fur ranging from black to brown to shades of grey, with a frightening simian-like face with large fangs built to render flesh. The skin often takes on an armour-like appearance, making the Genoskwa appear to be built from stone. There is often an odour associated with the Genoskwa, an odour that is a combination of a skunk and a rotten corpse. The origin of this odour could be two things, the first being secretions found in the folds of the creature's skin, and the other from the armpits of the beast itself. When threatened, the Genoskwa exude a noxious odour from their body, just as gorillas are known to do. It is believed that the Genoskwa live underground, and, as a nocturnal creature, it emerges only at night. Within hidden entrances and exits placed all over the forest, the Genoskwa lies in wait. When the beast seizes a victim, it is dragged back to its lair, never to be found again. It is said that the Bigfoot-like animal reaches heights ranging from 8 to 11 feet, with fangs and claws made to tear flesh. According to legend, the Genoskwa would twist the heads of the victims clean from their bodies. Known to be cunning and efficient hunters, the Genoskwa have often been labelled as Wendigo due to their affinity for devouring human beings. These stone giants were said to raid the homes and villages of the early settlers, abducting men, women and children for the sole purpose of devouring them. With stone-carved arrowheads proving to be useless against the stone armour of the Genoskwa, the people of the land were stricken with fear. Much of the modern lore suggests that the Genoskwa exist to this day, though after the post-Columbus discovery of America, sightings and attacks began to dwindle in number. It is speculated that the armour with which the Genoskwa covered themselves was no longer effective against the matchlock and flintlock rifles used by early settlers. It's possible that with the advent of firearms and steel, a large number of the Genoskwa population was eliminated as the playing field was levelled. However, though the sightings might have decreased, people still have sightings and encounters with the Genoskwa to this day. For hikers roaming the forests of North America, encounters with the beast are becoming more commonplace. For those who come face to face with the bloodthirsty monster, the results can be devastating. With the advent of modern technology and the increase of encroachment into forested terrain, the number of encounters with the Bigfoot cousin are beginning to rise. This brings us to a tale told to a man known as Howard when he was a boy by his father, a French-Canadian fur trapper, from when he worked in the area of northeast Huntsville, Ontario as a boy before the area was managed. At that time, the lumber trade was very active in the area, leading to an influx of hunters and fishermen who used logging roads to gain greater access to the deep wilderness areas. A father and son from Chicago, Illinois, by the family name of Sears, went on a hunting trip for moose in the greater Mattawa River region, guided by a local Indian and French-Canadian guide called Little Jack. Little Jack had some reputation in the region and was known for putting hunters onto large moose and was much sought after, having made a name for himself guiding rich tourists and visiting politicians from across Canada and the United States. The year was 1894, the exact location, an unknown lake. It was the season of October, rutting season for the moose, the best time to hunt bull moose, which congregate at that time of year to battle for dominance in the mating season. The hunters and guide paddled the main trunk of the Mattawa River along the Ontario-Quebec border, taking a branch of creek north into Quebec. On this 2-day trip, many moose were seen, but the Seers were looking for a true trophy and pressed Little Jack take them deeper into the wild region. With hesitation, Little Jack agreed to take them to a lake he knew of, but explained to them that they would stay only in that area during daylight hours and would be departing by midday, as he had fears of some large beast that was reputed to frequent the area. The Seers took this as superstition and largely discounted Little Jack's warnings. On arriving at the lake, Little Jack laid down the ground rules for the day's hunt. He instructed the Seers to stay on the south side of the lake and placed the father in a thicket overlooking a clearing that was bordered by the lake. The son was to canoe along the lake to the east and set up his hunting blind along a marsh area. Both men promised they would not cross the lake, which was not wide at that point, and the guide would go between the two men frequently. Little Jack was nervous and spent a great deal of time that morning being sure his charges were staying in their assigned hunting spots. At about noon, Little Jack told Mr. Sears Sr. to begin to get ready to leave, promising to bring them back early the next morning. Then he began to turn to leave. This is when Mr. Sears Sr. pointed out to the lake. Little Jack turned to see young Mr. Sears paddling across the lake, already very close to the other side. Little Jack began to run, yelling and waving, trying to get young Mr. Sears to turn around, but the young man either did not hear him or chose to ignore him. It was at this time Mr. Sears Sr. noticed a large shape moving in the tree line along the shore of the opposite side of the lake. Thinking it was a moose, he called out to Little Jack, whom at this point was about to land his canoe. Little Jack was frantic and turned to tell Mr. Sears Sr. to remain silent. Getting into the canoe, Little Jack began to paddle as quickly as possible, but by this time, young Mr. Sears was already landing and pulling his canoe up onto the opposing shoreline. Little Jack again tried to call young Mr. Sears back, but the young man ignored his calls and walked into the woods. In the time it took for Little Jack to cross the lake, he heard the sounds of young Mr. Sears' rifle as several shots were fired, followed by silence for a moment. As Little Jack was about to land his canoe, young Mr. Sears came running out of the tree line as if being pursued. Little Jack had no time to land his canoe, but raised his own rifle to shoot whatever might be chasing young Mr. Sears. A large, upright, hair-covered beast emerged from the tree line after young Mr. Sears. In a few short steps, the beast was upon young Mr. Sears, and this beast reportedly decapitated the young man by grabbing him by the upper torso from behind, and then, with its other hand, simply twisted the young man's head clean from his body. Little Jack emptied his gun at the beast, but the beast did not fall. Instead, it carried the body of young Mr. Sears back into the woods, dragging the body by a leg and carrying the young man's head in its other hand. Little Jack, having no more ammunition, returned to Mr. Sears Sr. It is reported that Mr. Sears Sr. insisted on going after the beast, having witnessed the entire event from his vantage point on the opposing side of the lake. But little Jack refused and almost had to drag the distraught father away from the area. When having reached their camp at the Mattawa River, little Jack insisted they pack and paddle to the nearest settlement, which they reached by the following morning. The incident was reported to a local constable, who led a search party that included both little Jack and Mr. Sears Sr., along with several loggers and woodsmen, to the lake, where they searched for several days, finding only young Mr. Sears' broken rifle and a short trail of blood. It is reported that the searchers all heard beastly screams and howls. On those nights, the search would be suspended due to the coming of darkness, and eventually they all gave up in fear, as each night the screams and howls seemed to be closer to their camp. In the aftermath of the incident, little Jack moved to the Huntsville area after the trip had ruined his reputation. He made his living trapping and fishing, and was said to have become an alcoholic, drinking away his money when he had any and living off the land, but never too far from town. What do you think? Is there a violent version of Bigfoot out there? Do you have any stories about the Genoskwa? Let me know in the comments below. If you like what I do here on the channel, hit that red button, like and share. You can catch the latest by searching We Are If. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.